Okay folks, gotta go pay the bill at the parts store. Hey folks, this is Mike from KEI Fabrication. This is my LS swapped Mazda B2200.
As long as it's tied down well enough, I guess it'll be all right.
Alright, now we got a design chair. I can do some highly classified scientific calculations. Alright boys and girls, looky looky looky, we got ourselves a 2500 HD. It's got a few scratches on it. I know, you folks are going to be like, that's a rollover, beware. But this is the reason why this truck was delivered to me today, is that right there. 6.0 liter. The story is that before this truck was wrecked, it had a low mileage engine installed. It's a 2005. It's 2005. So I know rollovers are a problem. Years and years and years ago, I bought a motor out of a car that was rolled over, and after I put the motor in and found out it had 8 rod knocks, talking to somebody that responded to the scene of the accident and said, yeah, the driver was unconscious and the car was on its roof, and he sat there with his foot buried to the floor and the engine was revving to infinity and obviously pumping all the oil out. So the oil in this engine is still full, and the people who towed this said it was laying on its side. The theory is that it shut off immediately. Now, here's the deal. The reason why this truck is here, and even though it's such a mess, is the deal is, if I start it up and it runs good, I'll buy it. If it starts up and it has rod knocks or any other issues that I'm not happy with, tow truck driver comes and grabs it, takes it away. So I hope that this is going to be the new 6-liter hot rod engine for the LS swapped Mazda. So as nasty as this looks, I know you guys are wondering, and girls, the driver, owner of this truck is 100% okay. He walked away. They did have to cut him out because the doors wouldn't open and the roof was squashed down to the top of the seats. But as I said, no injuries. The owner was fine, and he signed the vehicle over to the towing company, and that's how I ended up with it. So now, nothing's ever easy, right? So this vehicle has no keys. I believe at the scene of the accident, the owner probably had all his house keys and everything else on, took them out of the ignition, and went on his way. So my dilemma is, what do I need to do to get the ignition to work in this truck, not activate the vehicle anti-theft, and get it to run? So I do some research on that. There's a whole bunch of misinformation out there, and then there's a whole bunch of truthful stuff, and obviously my job is going to be to decipher which is which. So I searched the entire truck trying to find the key, if it fell out during the crash and was laying on the floor or in some cubby hole somewhere. Haven't found a hide key, not that would still be in position wherever it was left. So unfortunately, I think this one's going to battle me a little bit to get it fired up. So as soon as I have a prognosis on this motor or engine, I know some of you think that motors are electric and engines are gas or internal combustion. Alright, so in the crash, the only thing I think that I am going to have to do to get a long-term burst out of this thing is hook the air inlet back up to the throttle body, because that fender was pushed so far out of the way, and I think the engine might have moved around. Actually, it's mostly the radiator support got pushed over. With the airbox being attached to that fender, when it got pushed over, it yanked it off of the throttle body. So that shouldn't be a big deal. I'll trim away some of the shroud. This thing hasn't lost any coolant, anything like that. So I think it's only been sitting for about a month or two. So I'm hoping this is a goodie. I'll let you know. Alright folks, I kind of cowboyed it here. I tried the best I could to get the barrel lock out of the ignition, and I just had no luck. Those things are in there. But here's what might help you folks out. If you look online and you search on how to start up any Chevy vehicle without a key after 1999, they talk to you about cutting these two wires on this little interconnect for the resistor for the key. So I cut those wires, I tie wrapped them together, and then I went through the relearn. Now here's the key to this whole thing. No pun intended, but this device is all the interconnect that makes all the connections to the computer, fires up the fuel pump and the starter relay, and it's a rotary switch that engages with the barrel for the key, and when you turn the key it rotates this switch and goes starts the engine, makes the connections down here. So here's the deal. If you can get this out, which really it wasn't any big deal at all, took the bottom cover off of the column and pried this thing out, it came right out. So these little white tabs are designed to hold it in these two holes. So anyway, what you do is you just use your thumb or finger to rotate this switch. You go through the relearn sequence that everybody talks about online when you don't have the key or your key is acting up. After you tie these two wires together, go through that 10-minute interval of cycling the key on and off 3 times, a total of 30 minutes. Wait the 10 seconds between each interval, and this thing fired right up. So right now at idle, at 180 degrees, I have 36 pounds of oil pressure. The motor's not making any noises, however, because it was laying on its side, some oil got into the thing and I had a big cloud of white smoke. But as soon as I got the security thing taken care of, I rolled it over. The fuel pump cycled every time as far as the pre-startup, and it fired right up. So hopefully, if you folks are buying an LS engine out of a truck that's been wrecked or you don't have the key, don't waste your time trying to destroy or take the barrel lock out. Pull that black rotary switch out and just use it as a thumb wheel, and just roll that rotary switch over with your thumb. Go through that security code relearn sequence, and it should get you going. So immediately when it started up, the power steering cooler sprung a leak because the lines were all rotted, of course, during the crash. During the crash it sprung that. I got some oil burning off the manifold. Again, the engine laid on its side, and the noise you're hearing is the power steering pump, and the cooling fan is stuck on the plastic shroud, so I can't let it run too long because it's got no cooling capacity in terms of the fan. So far it looks like this is a keeper. It's definitely a 6.0. I checked the numbers, and on the head it's got 317s, which is I think it's 03 and newer 6.0 LS1 series. So anyway, I'm gonna do a little more diagnostics on it to make sure that the engine is healthy, and we'll pay the man. Got no brakes, no power steering.
You're dripping antifreeze like crazy. How's your temperature?
Right now it's not.
bringing it down below?
No, not right now. I wanted to prove the concept here.
Just a little fender rubbing, that's all.
Yep.
It is a scorcher today. Even my eyeballs and my ears are sweating. So while we're in the pressure washer mode here, I figured I'd share something with you that I actually borrowed from Kyle at KillFab when he built his new house. He had shown that he had his contractor put in a hot and cold water supply outside his garage. I chose to do the same thing, and it really ends up being a more effective power washing situation with the warm water. And if it's a cool day and you're pressure washing, you don't get surprised by the cold water splashing on you. So it was, and then if you want to wash your car in the wintertime, obviously you got some nice warm water to do it. So if you have the opportunity to do that, by all means, I would make it happen. Now, just so you folks know, that electrical service was a future 110 outlet that is not wired in. It's terminated on the inside of the house, blanked off, and I moved it several feet away to a welder outlet in the gray box, and just beyond it is a weather tight thing, so I'm at least 6 feet away from the water. So and that is a GFI over there, so don't yell at me. That's going to be blocked off and eliminated. Alright, so we took the tranny out. I took it out the right way, if you will, without cutting anything and maintaining all the wires and stuff, because I may have the transmission sold. So the transfer case came out, I took the exhaust off, and when this truck rolled over, there's a big dent in the drive shaft. So I paid real close attention to the adapter flange on the transmission to make sure it wasn't cracked. I did drive the vehicle around. The transmission does work good. So I got to wait for some help to pick this up off of the tranny jack. It's a entry-level tranny jack, so it doesn't lower down enough, and I can't raise the lift enough to get it out from under. So we'll get another body in here, we'll transfer it to a cart, and we'll roll it right out of here. Next, we're going to pull the nose off just for convenience, and then we're going to pull the motor out. Alright, so normally I would wrestle this thing off of the tranny jack and put it on the cart down there, but I recently popped a rib out and I'm extremely sore, and right where that rib is giving me trouble is where the transmission would be resting against my body. So I got tired of waiting for my help to show up. So those of you who work alone, obviously you're probably really good at figuring out ways to do these things because you only have one pair of hands. So put some bolts in the transmission to capture some tubing that goes across the lift. I'm going to let the tranny jack down so the transmission will be suspended, and then I'll let the lift down, and in the process the tranny will come down and rest on that cart. So let's see how this goes. There's step one. Well, that worked. I'd definitely use that method again. I don't know if you guys caught that on the video, but the Ranger only had front brakes to begin with. And when I was using it as a brake to slow this truck down before I went in the woods, the pedal went right to the floor. Blew out a brake line somewhere for the front brakes as well, so I had to use drive and reverse. Oh, anyway, I needed the room in the shop. I have another project ready for the lift, so had to evict